There's a policy in New York City of stop and frisk. Now, Mayor Bloomberg has gone unbelievable on this policy. Now, some of it makes sense. So like in the old days, when Giuliani did this, as much as I don't like Giuliani, I thought it made sense and I thought he was good on this. You got to be fair, credit where credit is due. And the guys that would jump the turnstiles of the subways, they would stop them and then find out that they had warrants out for their arrest, etc. That strategy worked. I'm not against that, and those guys were breaking the law, and then you found out that some of them were worse criminals, okay? Now, this stop and frisk when it comes to drugs has gotten out of control. Of course, there is one guy who's in favor of it. It's Bill O'Reilly. He's going to go on Fox and Friends. After you listen to him, I'm going to give you the real facts. Now, let's watch first.
And this is about racism. This is a racial story, not a drug story. Here in the city, we have stop and frisk policy, which has brought crime way down in New York, way down, okay? The cops know who the wise guys are. They know who the dealers are. They know who the punks are. And they know who the muggers are. And they try to get these guys on anything. It's like getting Al Capone on tax evasion instead of murder. All right? So they know these guys carry pot and other drugs, and they stop and they frisk and they find them and they send them into the system. Right. That's what drives crime down. Get them off the street. Mm-hmm. The left hates that. Hates it. Because it is racial profiling, but it's really criminal profiling. Who don't have anything, and they get angry, and I understand that. Right. But it's a crime-fighting technique that they're now going to take away from the NYPD, and mark my words, street crime in New York will go up because of that.
Did you follow all that? In the beginning, he said, this is a racist policy. And then he said, I love it. Okay, we need it. He said, you know, he began by saying this is about race, right? That they do target race. Well, that part he's right about, because I'm going to show you the numbers in a second, right? But then he turned into, well, you know, it's not racial profiling, it's criminal profiling. They had it coming anyway. And he said it's okay because they know who the wise guys are and they know who all the criminals are. And they're using this to get them like they got Al Capone. And then later at the end, he said, well, a lot of times they don't get the right guy. That's too bad. Not too bad. You racially profile because O'Reilly thinks that that's a great idea. That's the way to go. And he says the left will go crazy if you try to reduce crime like that. No, but what I just told you, crime did go down under Giuliani, and it was because he went after the squeegee guys sometimes, and you know people had issues with that, but the turnstile guys and the small amount of crime. But here they're stopping and frisking people. The guy doesn't have marijuana on him visibly. When they stop and frisk, they say, okay, now you have to turn out your pockets. Oh, we found marijuana, that's it, now it's a misdemeanor, okay? Now that goes on your record, and you're screwed for the rest of your life. Now, Andrew Cuomo thinks this is insanity. He's the governor of New York, and he says, we got to get this to stop. I'm going to get to that proposal in a second, but first the facts. Last year alone, you know how many stop and frisks there were? 685,724. That's just a shocking number. That's one city in 1 year. That's an unbelievable amount of stop and frisk. And how much has it increased under Bloomberg? 600%. Are there no bounds of reason? I mean, there was a stop and frisk policy. This is on steroids. It's increased 600%. Now, who does it target? 87% of the people that were stopped were blacks or Latinos. 87%. Now look, there's a lot of blacks and Latinos in New York City. What's the number? About 50%. 50% of the city is black or Latino. But 87% of the people that are stopped and frisked are black or Latino. Now, does that seem a little disproportionate? You betcha. You think they're stopping and frisking the guys at Wall Street? Like they're about to go into a board meeting, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. Like, hey, you, get up against the wall. I'm gonna stop and frisk you. You think that's how it works? Yeah. No. If you think that's how it works, you have no idea how this world works and you're in a lot of trouble. Go get help, okay? So this is wildly discriminatory, which actually, as I showed you, O'Reilly agreed with in the beginning. Then he just turned around and said he likes it that it's discriminatory against blacks and Latinos. He said, well, I mean, come on, if you're not stopping and frisking blacks and Latinos disproportionately, well, then you're not really fighting crime. Why? Because obviously they're the criminals. Ignore the real criminals, by the way, that stole trillions of dollars from us up on Wall Street. But those guys, no, leave them alone. Kids' gloves. Kids' gloves. If you're black or Latino, throw you against the wall, stop and frisk you. Well, the good news is Governor Cuomo, as I said, is trying to stop this. And now Bloomberg has been shamed into agreeing that they should decriminalize possession of 25 grams or less of marijuana that's in public view. When they say public view, it means stop and frisk, because it's not initially in public view, but the cops make you empty out your pockets, then it becomes in public view. Now, you would still have to pay a $100 fine, but at least it wouldn't go on your record. It wouldn't be a misdemeanor. Doesn't mean they're not going to continue to harass blacks and Latinos. They are, right? It just, well, you know, this tiny little thing where it's no, which is very important in the lives of a lot of people, though, is that they at least don't call it a misdemeanor anymore. Now, it hasn't passed yet, but that's what they're going to do. So let's hope that that is the case. Here's the other crazy idea that, of course, Bill O'Reilly won't agree with, and apparently the authorities in New York won't agree with. Stopping frisking minorities. If you have a reasonable basis to do it, look, it's a corner. I used to live in a corner, 109th in Amsterdam in New York City, where they dealt drugs. Everybody knew they dealt drugs. I worked in the prosecutor's office. We knew. I lived on the street. We knew. The guy on the corner. He sells drugs. Now, you have reasonable suspicion, because that's where they've been selling drugs all this time. Go ahead and stop and frisk that guy. Nobody's against that. We're not against you preventing crime. You know what? I'm on that corner. I'm going to my house. Stop and frisk me. Okay, I get it, right? But if all this is, hey, you know what? Let's just use this as an excuse to stop and frisk blacks and Latinos. What? If you do the percentages, what? Over 500,000 times in 1 year? Well, that ain't right, man. And it leads to what is reality, unfortunately, this feeling of gross injustice that happens over and over and over again. And at some point, people are going to break. They're going to say, enough of this. We can't take this anymore.
Yo, I just got stopped like 2 blocks ago, yo.
You look very suspicious.
Cause y'all always looking at me crazy.
People don't like police because of the harassment. And what civilians don't understand is that the police department is like forcing us to do these unreasonable stops, or you're going to get penalized.
The mayor seemed completely unapologetic about the practice. He said it has to go forward, it's necessary. Do you have the
Well,
same?
I think the mayor is absolutely correct.
Some people are just very hurt by it and upset when they're stopped unnecessarily.
Well,
What
I
message
understand
do you
that
have to
some
the
people, you know, you're taking away, at the very least, you're taking away people's time. So I understand people may not be happy with it, but I can also assure you that I go to the communities of color, people want more. So
They want
it's
more
not-
stop and frisk.
Absolutely.
I had this captain who walked into the precinct and gave a speech about harassing the public. His words were, we're going to go out there and we're going to violate some rights. We hear it from the captain down. We want 250s. This is stop, question, and frisk.
Yeah, 116th Street between Madison and Park. Yeah, He stops me and then pushes me, telling me he's gonna punch me in my face.
I was walking home from my girlfriend's house, and a cop car went past me. A couple of seconds later, I heard the car turn around, and they just popped out. They all jumped out the car. I decided to record it because I was getting stopped a lot, and I didn't have evidence of cop being disrespectful or anything, so I pressed the button and recorded the whole thing.
Oh, you again, man.
Yo, I just got stopped like 2 blocks ago, yo.
You look very suspicious.
Cause y'all always looking at me crazy.
Because you keep looking back at us, man.
Cause
want to go to jail?
But for what?
Shut your mouth, kid.
What am I getting arrested for?
Shut your mouth.
What am I getting arrested for?
For being a mutt, you know what?
Also, that's a law, being a mutt?
I'm mad just hearing that. Like, not many words really could describe that. It's just disturbing. But that's exactly what's happening. Like, I could relate to what he's doing because I know that situation. They just don't got no respect for us, and they wonder why we don't have respect for them. And for them to just call him a name like that and just that's just.
Yo, why you touching me for?
He was holding me. He was going through every pocket. He was going up, down. He was going through my sweater. Then that's when he told me to keep my hands on my head. So I was like holding me. The sergeant's holding me like this. He's like, I'm gonna break your arm. I'm like, why? I'm like, you're gonna break my arm? He's like, yeah, and I'm gonna punch you in the face. I was like, you're gonna punch me in the face? And he's like, yeah. He's like, and then I'm gonna arrest you. I'm like, arrest me for what? And he's like, for being a mutt. So he grabbed me by my book bag, and he started pushing me down. So I'm going backwards like down the hill, and he just kept pushing me and pushing me. It looked like he was gonna hit me. I felt like they were trying to make me resist or fight me back.
That's the kind of harassment faced by people of color every day. Check out this video of a man who was stopped and frisked at a barber shop this past April.
Why you stop and frisk me? Let me see your ID. Why did you stop and frisk me? No, I got it. Why did you stop and frisk me? I'm gonna get him my ID. I'm gonna get him. Relax. Officer, don't talk to me, man. Listen, I was gonna give him my ID.
That's all right. These are not isolated incidents. It's the daily reality faced by people in New York and all across the country.
A lot of times I ask them, what's the reason for you stopping me? They don't have an answer for me. They say, just turn around.
Like, why me? Like I didn't do anything. I'm just cruising by. How could they mistake me for someone else?
When I do get stopped, it does make me feel like I have no type of rights or anything like that.
It's the most dominated you could really feel standing on 2 feet is having your hands on the wall, having somebody patting you up and down, another person surveilling and watching it and documenting it.
Stopped for no reason. This practice is unfair and unjust. That's why a federal lawsuit has been filed against the New York Police Department and the city of New York, demanding an end to racial profiling and stop and frisk.
Here's Auto Body Detailing, mobile quality car care, offering full exterior and interior vehicle washing, including sedans, SUVs, trucks, motorcycles, boats, RVs, school buses, dump trucks, and tractor trailers. We come to you at your home business or anywhere you choose. Ready, willing, and able to serve. Contact us today at 410-725-8265. Here's Auto Body Detailing.
During stops that some police officers try to provoke so that they can justify an arrest?
Of course they do. A lot of police officers be trying to set civilians off, and then once they start talking, start cursing, they can lock them up for anything.
There was 2 minorities leaning against the wall. They weren't doing anything, and my sergeant ordered me to write them blocking pedestrian traffic. If you're a certain ethnicity standing on the corner, lieutenants, sergeants, they have no problem searching you, violating your rights, and racial profiling.
There was one statement that the sergeant said about what he used to do. He used to stop a guy walking down the street with baggy pants and his underwear hanging out, and he'd just stop him. He says, I know he's probably up to nothing, but I just stopped him anyway just to get a 250.
It's this one cop that everybody in the neighborhood know. Stopped us like 3 times already. Like, he was like, nah, come here. So they got out the car. They threw my friend on the car. I'm still walking. He spun me around and punched me in my stomach. Started just patting us down, and they just left us there.
What we're trying to do is make certain that it's done as professionally as possible, that proper respect is shown. It's done according to the law.
This goes all the way up to commissioner's office. I'd say even the mayor's office, where they're trying to be proactive and say, look, we're stopping people, we're getting drugs and guns off the streets. But it's not. I think it's of the 600,000 people that were stopped last year, only 1% of those that were stopped were carrying weapons.
The NYPD's controversial stop and frisk policy.
NYPD program known as Stop and Frisk. Also, last year, New York police officers stopped and interrogated people nearly 686,000 times.
Today that a lawsuit raises serious questions about quotas, racial profiling, and constitutional rights.
The public isn't aware of what's happening, but everything is being looked at as far as numbers, and it's a numbers game. Okay, what did you get last year? Well, you have to match it and give me more this year.
But just looking at your activity based on other people's activity within your command, they feel like you're doing something. All I'm asking you is to avoid anything further. Do a little bit more. When it's not that hard to do a 250. I think I lied when my first 250 first started coming out. I was big on not stopping nobody for no 250, but then I kept getting hit and hit hard about it. You need to do 250, you need to do 250. So I started doing them just to keep the heat off of myself, because I didn't want to be in no double mind or anything like that. So I just did the 250 just to do it. Would you sure?
Yes, I'll do some writing. They're trying to keep all of this stuff quiet. So this is my proof that they're putting pressure on me to write summonses.
Commanders are trying to be proactive or show that they're being proactive. And here you have a system where people are told, get those numbers to where they should be, and you're going to get your promotion.
The commanding officer wants to become a deputy inspector. The executive officer wants to become a commanding officer. If you do well by keeping the arrests up and the summonses up, you will be promoted to the next rank. So they put pressure on the police officers to generate numbers and arrests.
I mean, let's be real, it is a quota. Nobody wants to call it that, but that's what it is. They call it a performance objective, they call it a goal, they can mask it however they want. It's a quota, and it does exist.
Some of us, under the stress, make them up. Some of us, under the stress, stop innocent people and search them. And there's certain units out there that will just run around and stop everybody.
What happens to the officer if they don't do what the police department tells them to do as far as these quotas? They will come after you. Come after you meaning transfers, give you low evaluations.
They give you unwanted assignments. Put you in a post which is very dangerous, high crime, by yourself, in a corner. This is a form of retaliation.
Basically, change of tours, put you on at midnight. They make you look bad on paperwork, and that paperwork will trail you for the rest of your police career.
And knowing that your livelihood's at stake, you meet the quota.
It does create this feeling of, hey, listen, I gotta get my numbers. When you put that pressure on the officer, this us versus them mentality does exist.
When I came into this police department, I wanted to help people. But the civilian population, they're being hunted. Instead of being protected by us, they're being hunted, and we're being hated.
The police department is pushing the new guys to be bounty hunters. And I use that word because that's exactly what it is. They're hunting.
There's a lot of officers who are fed up and want to do something about it, and there's people who are scared.
There's a lot of officers that would like to tell their story, But nobody wants to hear the truth. Nobody wants to hear the bad.
We need police, but the police department needs to change things.
At one point, I did want to be a cop to help people and mostly just like be able to wear a badge and a uniform and be proud of it. But now I feel like I'm not sure because they're not there to help people anymore. They're just there to like stop them, humiliate them, make them feel bad. There's no excuses for the way they treated me.
This one individual was thinking about doing NYPD. The first thing I told him is definitely not. This job, racial profiles, will force you to do things that you don't want to do. We're supposed to be the best in the world. We're the best at making money, and we're the best at arresting and summoning everybody.